My grandfather was a fisherman, my father was a fisherman, and as a boy, we would, my brother, twin brother, and I, they were Hayden fishing in the summertime. And of course, we wanted to go every day, you know how boys are.
Yeah.
And they'd take us once in a while, and they didn't take us in bad weather and things like that. And I remember one time they took us, and we were all hopped up, wanting to go the next day. And when we woke up the next morning, of course, to be in the Sound all day is it takes a lot out of you. The next morning they went on fishing and they didn't call us. And when we woke up, the sun was shining.
Wow.
And we were so disappointed, we cried. Well, but in 1937, he and my brother and I started shrimping with Amy Willis. And in those days, it was a small boat. It didn't even have a mast in it. And everything was done by hand. And there wasn't much shrimping in Course Island then, hardly any. And along about August, people from Course Island, Beaufort, Moorhead area would go to Southport and shrimp out of there, and live right aboard the boats. And that was it was like camping out, really.
So you say you started in menhaden fishing. So could you tell us a little bit exactly what you do?
Menhaden fishing? Well, then the menhaden boats ran around in the Sound, and they could observe the fish and try to catch them. And sometimes they did, and sometimes they didn't. And later on, my dad and myself went to Delaware fishing in '48. And then they didn't have airplanes looking for fish. And it was just observing from the crow's nest. And, we didn't finish the season out there. It was a poor season. And we didn't finish it out there. And 50 years later, I started fishing with James Starn, running the boat for James Starn. So that's a long break and a lot of difference. It would take a lot of talking to fill in that space there. And some of it may not be interesting. But the main money maker was shrimping. I always told Milt, when we're shrimping, we got money in our pocket, because commercial fishing is seasonal. You have runs of fish in their season, and you have to wait for those different times of year for that type of fishing to come in. We do all types of fishing, clamming and scalloping and crabbing and all through the years, and we've come up with it, and it would take a long time to describe all of that. And but you said something a while ago about a lot of boats in Course Island. Well, in the early '80s, we had a fish house. For about the middle of the '60s, my brother and I built a fish house down here on the shore, and we had that mainly for opening scallops in the winter time. and but in the winter time in Course Island, when the water turned cold, everything went in. All the fish, all but the seed, went in the ocean, and you had either scallop or clam. You'd take whatever your preference. And through the years, that's gone up and down. Even when there were very few fishermen, the seasons, the commercial fishermen are not like farmers. They prepare their farm. Commercial fishing depends on nature. We caught our shrimp in Oyster Creek in these places and headed them. Mr. Amy's sister and her family headed them for ½ cent a pound. And we got a nickel a pound headed. Commercial fishing was controlled by the dealers at that time, because when we had runs of fish, and when those runs would come, the market was glutted, and you couldn't even sell them. Small marsh nets before the 70s, and there was people at Harker's Island sing netted, and some to Beaufort and to Moorhead, but I don't know of any. Well, in the 30s they did from all up and down the Sounds. When that season would start, over a period of years, people would see where they could, when that time comes, they could jump in and catch some fish for a time. I can remember when there wasn't but 3 people on Davis Shore that were full-time commercial fishermen. That is, people that didn't do anything else for a living. A lot of people fished at certain times, and then they'd go off and get a job. But I'm talking about a full-time commercial fisherman. Shrimping is a thing that made commercial fishing, where local people could make a living at it. Scalloping became so that you could make a living at it in the wintertime. Well, when that storm came, when that 33 storm came, it washed the beach or the sand off of that beach and covered every bit of that from Cape Lookout right on north. It covered every bit of that grass with sand. Well, there were scallops there before, but the scallops have to have something to hold them on the bottom, but when he covered that bottom with sand and made a clam bed from Cape Lookout right on north. That sand seeded, that's nature working. That sand covered with clams, and it was a solid clam bed right on down. Well, we started clamming, and every clam that could be caught, the way they were doing it, was caught. And I was one of the last ones clamming. I put my clam dredges on the shore in '62. Well, a little while after that, somebody said they're catching, Atlanticers are catching 3,000 or 4,000 pounds of clams a day with trawls. I said, I don't believe it. But because I didn't believe it, it didn't make it so. That's our problem. People's got beliefs and they're not proven. And when they're proven, it makes a difference. So when you're trying to manage nature, and a lot of people don't even believe in nature. They don't believe in God. They don't believe in nature, and they see it all the time, but they don't believe in it. They don't admit it. I may be getting off a little bit on the fishing, but it all goes together. I stood on my dock in the early '80s and counted the boats. When I stood on that dock and looked south at South Hammock Beacon, which is east of Davis Island. From that South Hammock Beacon to sea level, as far as I could see, I counted 62 trawlers. Most of them were double riggers. Commercial fishing. I don't know how many fish houses there were on Harker's Island in the year 2000. I'll say that was about the end of the big thing. Commercial fishing was so lucrative. There was so much money involved in it. They built a bank to Harker's Island. They built a bank to Smyrna to accommodate the economy because of commercial fishing.
Wow.
And now they're both gone because it has been managed to death. Commercial fishing is, as we know it, it's gone.